Lauren Woodrum. I am a senior plus at Ball State University. My parents didn't really go to church all that much. Sometimes they did, but it was mainly my grandma, who I call Granny, who would take me to church. At church, I learned a little bit about who Jesus was, but it didn't really click with me too much since, I was a little kid. I just know, oh, he's a cool guy up in heaven, and you can just talk to him about your problems. And that was kind of about it. Fast forward to a few years before I went to Ball State. I just started having some troubles at home, a lot of family drama. My parents started to fight a lot, and I had made a few mistakes, which got them pretty upset with me. I began to feel like their fighting was my fault, and eventually it reached a climax to where my dad wanted to divorce my stepmom, and I was like, oh no, what have I done? This voice in my head told me it was my fault, that I'm a monster for causing this. I felt so ashamed of myself. I was crying and stuff. I was like, oh my God, why did I do this stuff? And I wish I could fix it, but they're so angry at me that there is nothing I can do to fix it. I can't get them to forgive me. I might as well just not even be here. I went to a Christian university for 1 year, and there I also learned some about God. But I feel like in some parts, I wasn't being treated kind of in a godly way. I have high functioning autism. Kind of emotionally, socially wasn't really ready for college back then. My residence hall staff didn't really understand me. I began to feel like, oh my gosh, God is not real, because what loving Heavenly Father would let me go through all of this terrible stuff? After some of all that fighting went down, I left my step-parents and went to my mom's house, where it was, more peaceful. I didn't talk with my family for quite some time, for a few years. Then I go to Ball State. I'm living in Stu West, and I meet a girl who is also in Stu West. Her name's Malia Shockney. We're in the same major, and on the first day of class, she invites me to Crew, and I'm like, all right, cool. I said, what exactly is Crew? And she goes, it's a movement passionate about knowing Jesus and telling his story. I'm like, awesome. So I go with her to the first Crew meeting on a Thursday night. The Crew meeting is about how we don't have to do good deeds to get into heaven. I'm like, all right, this is cool. But then I go back to my dorm, and Malia asked me, what'd you think of the meeting? I said, I liked it a lot, but I kind of feel like God's not real, because I went through some trauma with my residence hall staff, and later on my parents fighting. Why would a loving Heavenly Father let me go through something like that? Then Malia starts to share 4 points of the Knowing God Personally booklet that we have at Crew. I'm like, wow, this is really interesting stuff. I like this. And she asked me, do you want to know God and follow him? I said, sure. So we started praying for me to accept Jesus into my life. And then when I said yes, I instantly felt at peace. I felt happier. Though I still had some doubts about whether God was real or not. And then after that, I went through 4 weeks of foundation, which is us going deeper into those 4 knowing God personally points. You look at the facts of, Jesus' birth, the resurrection, and other things like that. And then you can have your feelings about it. So that's what really made me think, oh, maybe God is real. And I was just not really looking at the facts. And over time, I've just learned that through discipleship and community group and Crew meetings, that God is real, and He had a purpose for the trauma that I went through. Because God helped me through all that, I don't really feel shameful of myself anymore. And you know, you don't have to either, through God. Special side note, fast forward to this past school year, this year, fall 2022. It's August, I'm at the crew cookout. I get a phone call, I answer it, and it turns out to be my brother from my dad's house. He is 16 now. I left when he was like 10. He calls me and says, "Hey, I'm at Ball State. Where are you at?" And I was like, "Whoa, I'm at the bell tower." And he goes, "All right, I'm coming to you." I said, "Oh my God, this is so cool." He comes to me, he gives me a hug, and we start talking. And then my stepmom shows up, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" But, you know, there's no hard feelings. We have a really nice talk, about 45 minutes. There's no hard feelings. Everything's forgiven. It's all cool. And then we've had like several visits this year, like both at school and at home. And it just feels really good to be a part of that family again. And through God, they have also mended their mended their differences, and they're no longer like fighting and screaming at each other. Seriously, people, I feel like through God, all things are possible. Like come on, I came back from like death, not knowing God was real, to life, knowing that He was real and that there's a purpose for my trauma, and I was forgiven all my sins, past, present, and future. And I learned that it's not my fault that Satan was telling me that it was my fault, and that relationships can be restored with both my parents' relationship and my relationship with them.